Okay, so we're back here for part 2. Let's continue with number 8. Now number 8 is a little bit different. We're going to do a little extra work here. So we have 3 minus b is equal to 8. Now the b is what we're trying to isolate. So let's move the constant. That is a positive 3. If there's no symbol in front of that, that's automatically a positive. So how do we undo a positive value? We subtract it. Minus, minus. Same thing on both sides. 3 minus 3 is 0. Now this is a negative 1b. That's a negative 1b equals 8 minus 3 is 5. This subtraction symbol stays with whatever variable or number comes after it. Okay, so it's not 1b, it's negative 1b. Now in this case, we're not done because we can't leave this with a negative variable, a negative coefficient. So how do I undo a negative coefficient? What I do is I divide by negative 1. And the reason we do that is that we know a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So this would be plus 1b, or 1b. A positive 5 divided by a negative 1 is a negative 5. Positive divided by negative is negative. Now I don't need the 1 here. That's just b equals negative 5. Now we're done. Okay, so you need to notice the difference. If you end up with a negative in front of your variable, you're not finished. You have one more step. You need to divide by negative 1 because a negative divided by a negative becomes a positive coefficient. And there's our solution. Now just to show you, is it correct? Well, the left side was 3 minus b. Now b was negative 5, so I have to write, I am subtracting a negative, but minus a minus, those are both pluses. 3 plus 5 is 8. And the right side is also 8. Okay, so that is correct. All right, now, number 9. Now we get into coefficients. This is 9 times x equals 27. How do we undo multiplication? Well, we divide. So I'm going to divide by 9. Now I have to do this on both sides. 9 divided by 9 is 1. So this is just a 1x, which you don't need the 1. You can just say x equals 27 divided by 9 is 3. When I check, 9 times x is 9 times 3 equal to 27. Yes, it is. The left side, the right side are the same. Check. It's good. Negative 2 times x equals 18. How do we undo multiplication? We divide. Now in this case, I will divide by a negative. Now think about this. Why is it that we divide here by a negative? Well, remember that our goal is to get a positive 1x at the end. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, and this negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. So 1x equals, now careful here though, positive divided by negative is a negative 9. So again, I don't need the 1. I'll actually just make that part of my solution box. X equals negative 9. And if you're checking, it would be negative 2 times x. A negative times a negative, that would be positive 18. The right-hand value is also 18. Check. Number 11, where's the variable? It's on the right side. This is 8 times x. To undo multiplication, we divide. So we'll divide by 8. Now this is where you have to be careful. This is not 2 or negative 2. The number 4 is smaller than 8. We can reduce that fraction. Negative 4 over 8 is the same thing. If we divide by 4, we get negative 1 over 2. So negative 1/2 equals 8 divided by 8, that's 1x, or just x. So our answer is negative 1 over 2. Okay, so the 8 is not dividing being divided by -4. -4 is being divided by 8. If you are unsure, I encourage you to type, whoops. -4 divided by 8. Nope. Sorry. -4. I want it to be divided by 8. There it is. And I get -1/2. Okay? You can write the decimal equivalent, which is -0.5. That is also acceptable. If I check it, if I do 8 times -1/2, I get -4. Number 12. X divided by 3 is equal to 6. So now we are dividing here. How do you undo division? What we do is we multiply. So I'm going to multiply the left side and the right side by 3. And here's what happens. 3 times x, I'll do this on the side. This is like a 3 over 1. 3 times x is 3x. And then the denominator is 3, but what's 3 divided by 3? It's 1. So what I do here, I can divide first. 3 divided by 3 is 1, so we get 1x, or just x, equals 18. Is it correct? Well, if I substitute here, the left side was x divided by 3. Hey, that's 6. The right-hand value is also 6. Check. By the way, feel free to pause this, try to do these on your own, see if you agree with the answers that I get. All right, where's the variable? It's on the right side, so we'll start here. A divided by -4. How do we undo division? We're going to multiply. Now we're going to multiply by a negative on both sides because, remember, we're trying to get a positive 1a. So a negative times a negative, or a negative divided by a negative, that is a positive. So -4 divided by -4 is 1. So we get 1a. -4 times 12 is -48. And that is the answer. Okay, check. I can check with the calculator. So if I take my a value, which was -48, that was my answer, and we were dividing, this is the right side, divide by -4, we should get the same thing on the left, which is 12, and we do, so we know it is correct. Check. All right, now number 14 is a little different because a fraction times e equals 9. This e goes in the top. So I could write this as 3e divided by 4 equals 9. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. I'm going to break this into 2 steps. I'll do that the first way. So this is 3e divided by 4. How do we undo division? We multiply both sides by that number. And this is 4 divided by 4. I'm going to reduce that first. That's 1. And it leaves us with 3 times e equals 9 times 4 is 36. And when I cross these out, what I'm saying is that they both reduce to 1. 1 times anything is the same thing back. Now we have 3 times e equals 36. That's the coefficient, the 3. How do we undo multiplication? We divide. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So we get 1e equals 12. And if I want to check, I'm going to take 3/4. Oops. Oh, let's see. There we go. 3 over 4 times e, which was 12. We should get 9. And we do, yes. Okay, we're doing this right. This is awesome. All right, let's take 15, and then I'll show you a shortcut here. Again, we have a fraction, -5/4 times z. I am going to rewrite this where the variable is in the numerator. And I'm also going to put the negative up here with the top. Okay, and I'll talk about that in a moment. -5z divided by 4 equals 6. So if you want to do this as 2 steps, we can undo the division first. So we would multiply by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Those become 1. Well, 1 times anything is that same thing back, so that's negative 5z. 6 times 4 is 24. How do we undo, this is negative 5 times z. To undo multiplication, we will divide. And remember, we're trying to get this to be a positive 1, so if it's a negative coefficient, we will divide by a negative. That's 1z equals, now this will be a decimal, negative 4.8, or negative 24/5 is the fraction solution. Okay, and that is the answer. One of the things when you have a negative fraction, so you see I wrote this as negative 24 over 5. That is equivalent to putting the negative out front, like that. It is also equal to writing the negative in the denominator. But all of these mean the same thing. We're not normally going to leave a negative in the bottom of a fraction though. Okay, so I would ignore that. I would move the negative to the top. As long as it's a negative divided by a positive or a positive divided by a negative, you still get a negative value. But just so you know, we don't normally leave the negative there in a fraction. We would write it in the top or we would pull it out front. Okay, so they're all the same. And just to show you, if I say, I'll put it in the top, negative 24 over 5. Okay, they actually write it out front. If I had done this the other way, if I had put positive 24 divided by negative 5, notice it's the same thing. Okay, so those are equal. And the last example here, we have negative 12 times x. So negative 12 is a coefficient. How do we undo multiplication? We divide. So we'll divide by negative 12 because a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 12 divided by 12 is 1. So 1x equals negative divided by negative is positive. 9 over 12 we can reduce. We can divide those by 3 and we get 3 over 4. Or, as a decimal, is 0.75. That is also a good answer. Now, I want to go back. I'll make up an example. I'm going to show you one more thing. Number 17. Let's say that we have 2/3 x is equal to 10. Now, the way that I've shown you so far is we break this into 2 steps. We multiply by 3, and then we divide by 2. However, you can do this in one shot if you multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction. So if I multiply both sides by 3 over 2, here's what happens. 3 over 2 times 2 over 3, that's the multiplicative inverse. That would be 6 over 6, which is 1. That's 1x. And then 10 times 3 over 2, 10 times 3 is 30. 30 divided by 2 is 15. Oh, that's it. That's my answer. If I had wanted to write it as 2x over 3 is equal to 10, I could have then undone the division by multiplying by 3. That reduces to 1. 1 times 2x is 2x. 10 times 3 is 30. And then divide by 2, and we get x is equal to 15. So there's the same answer, but look at how much less work it is here. So you can do this. You can use this shortcut if you prefer that. And that is the end of part 1.